This is the 8th grade key terms for growth and development. First thing we're going to talk about is the 9 stages of life. As we go through these, we're going to keep them very simple, and we're not going to address Eric Erickson's explanation of them psychologically. Rather, we'll do that with an activity in class. First is infancy. This is birth to a year, learning to trust, growing rapidly, becoming more mobile. Second, early childhood, 1 to 3 years, toddler, potty training, learning to explore surroundings. That's 1 to 3 years, early childhood. Next, middle childhood, 3 to 6 years old. This is where you start getting a sense of right and wrong and what that means. Again, we'll talk about this more in class. Next is late childhood, discovering hobbies. This is 6 to 12 years old. Is starting to get more independent, starting to get a sense of what that feels like and a desire for that. Adolescence, 13 to 17, puberty, body changes, hormones, a lot of the growth and development stuff that occurs in a person's life will occur in the adolescent phase. Young adult, 18 to 30. This is where you really make a lot of the major choices in your life in terms of where you go to college, if you're going to go to college, what job you're going to do, who you're going to marry, if you're going to get married, if you're going to have kids, how many have kids, where you're going to live, so on and so forth. So in terms of establishing the rest of your life, these are some very important years. Next, we're going to break adulthood down in a couple segments. First is first adulthood. This is where people do a lot of earning from an income standpoint. This is where you're raising younger children. They're still in the nest, though. This is an empty nester years for most people. Second adulthood. This is kind of more that direction of empty nest, where people have kind of transitioned on, kids have transitioned on in their lives, and you're really in a position where you're the grandparents, you're giving back, and that really becomes your role. Finally is late adulthood, kind of a negative way to put this, I guess, but you learn to accept death, time for hobbies, families really growing here, just become a part of that. And actually, this is the time when the children may actually be in that first adulthood phase. And again, whenever you see a red check mark, go ahead and pause the video and answer a question. All right, the next thing we're going to take a look at is the endocrine system. Okay, we talked about muscular system, skeletal system. Those are pretty straightforward systems. The endocrine system is a little bit more not talked about as much, I guess. And what it does is it controls chemicals of various function, cells, tissue, and organs throughout the bodies. The secretion of hormones, such as testosterone, such as estrogen. And we're going to talk about the different organs that do that, the different glands that do that, and the different functions that they have. And in class, we're going to talk about potential diseases that these can get. Pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is kind of the main driver of the endocrine system. It regulates all of the other endocrine glands. So in this cutaway, this is a cutaway of a brain. You can see that's the part that's circled. That's where the pituitary gland is located. As we talked about in class a little bit, if you're growing very rapidly at a younger age or whatever it is, or if it happens when you're older, it's really determined by the pituitary gland. Next is the thyroid gland. You guys are probably aware that you have trachea in your neck, but right up underneath your jaw is the thyroid gland. It regulates metabolism. Metabolism refers to the way the body breaks down food and metabolizes it and uses it. It also influences growth and development as well. Next is the parathyroid gland. It sits on the thyroid gland. So if we're looking at this where the black arrow is, the parathyroid gland is going to be in that exact same spot right there. And it regulates calcium on the bones. And it's really, all of these glands are very important for one reason or another. In this case, it's regulating calcium. Next is the thalamus, and you can see kind of where the lungs and the heart are located. This is obviously important because it speaks to it regulates the development of the immune system, of your immune system. So very important. Adrenal glands. Adrenal glands. We're looking at kidneys, areas around the pancreas, um, blood pressure, blood flow. If you ever heard of adrenaline, that is produced by this gland. The pancreas. The pancreas is very important because it regulates insulin and glycogen, basically the amount of sugar that is in your blood. So if you hear somebody who is diabetic, their pancreas doesn't regulate blood, sugar in the blood as it should, and will often have either high or low blood sugar, and that's where insulin shots need to come in because the pancreas doesn't do that the way it's supposed to. Testes, it's male sexual development and sperm production. It also uh, Testosterone is the hormone that causes more masculine features, um, which is why men look more masculine, obviously, than women. Uh, Testosterone is also important in the process of building muscle, so on and so forth. Actually, the ovaries produces estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen, if testosterone is more male oriented, estrogen is the opposite and is more female oriented. The pineal gland produces melatonin and serotonin. You may have heard of these before, melatonin and serotonin. This is what allows you to sleep and regulate sleep and nerve impulses. Um, so if it's a situation where people are anxious, sometimes their pineal gland is not regulating the serotonin as it should, and that's where the medication comes in. And same thing, I know there's people who take melatonin to help them sleep. Again, both of those are hormones produced by the pineal gland. Okay, last one is diseases of the endocrine system, and this is going to be something that we talk about in class. We're also going to do an activity within class. We're also going to do the same with how lifestyle choices impacts reproductive system, use of drugs and things of that nature. We'll talk about that in class. As far as the rest of the topics in the unit, we're also going to talk about STIs and the 3 different kinds and get into specifics about that. But we have a different video for that one. And then we're going to talk about consent as well. So this is the key terms for the 8th grade growth and development unit. Here are some sources. You can pause and take a look at it if you want to.